What's up, everyone? We're back with another episode of The Fight Corner, episode number 18, taking a look back at UFC 307. Alex Pereira taking on Khalil Rountree for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. As always, highlights from the entire main card prelims and the early prelims, taking a look at who took home the $50,000 bonuses, and then a look ahead to this weekend's fight card, Brandon Royval taking on Tatsuro Taira from the UFC Apex. So without any further ado, let's get into this week's episode. And of course, we start at the main event, Alex Pereira taking on Khalil Rountree Jr. for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. Rountree coming real close on several occasions with his left hand in the first round, but Pereira stings him with a hard counter right and starts attacking the lead leg of Rountree. And Rountree's still just short on his punches, but does land a good right hand late in the round. And Rountree having success early in the second, catching Pereira with a right hand, and he responds with a counter right of his own and some stiff jabs. But Rountree briefly dropping Pereira after the attempted high kick with a brutal right hand. But Pereira, undeterred, right back on the pressure with his jab and a hard right hand. But Rountree fires back with another head kick, landing clean on Pereira. In the third, Rountree with a hard left hand to start the round, backing Pereira up and a hard kick to the body as well. And Pereira coming close with a lead high kick of his own and a good jab as well, and another right hand before attacking the lead leg. And Pereira using his jab really well and starting to pull away in the striking, really busting Rountree up, but a great fight so far. Stiff jab from Pereira and a hard kick to the gut to start the fourth, and more leg kicks and attacks to the body, and a brutal jab that stunned Rountree, busting him up and popping his head back. And Pereira starting to butcher Rountree, picking his shots really well, not crushing the space. And a series of right hands nearly finishes Rountree, but he stays on his feet, and Rountree trying to fire back, but Pereira is all over him against the cage, battering him with punches and knees before ripping to the body and following with a right uppercut which drops Rountree and forces Mark Goddard to stop the fight. And if you didn't know, now you know, Alex Pereira is an absolute animal. But mad respect for Khalil Rountree. I mean, he got beat up badly, but did not give up on himself and was still trying even though he was getting battered, and gave a real good account for himself. But this just goes down as another brutal KO victory for Alex Poatan Pereira. And in your co-main event, it was Raquel Pennington and Julianna Pena for the UFC Women's Bantamweight Championship. Both really trying to establish their jab in the opening round and a slightly tentative pace to it. Pennington with a nice uppercut and some good leg kicks, while Peña content just to strike to the head at this point and does land a nice right hand over the top near the end of the round. They clinch up in the second and Peña takes Pennington down right into side control, applying some real hard shoulder pressure. Pennington is able to get back to her feet, but Peña jumps to the back and controls her for the rest of the round. In the third, hard counter right hand from Peña off the Pennington Superman punch, and Peña again getting to the body lock, steps around and dumps Pennington right into side control. And Peña beautifully moves to the back, landing ground and pound, and then looks for the face crank, really wearing on and draining Pennington. Pennington landing the head kick early in the fourth, forcing Peña to respond with strikes in defense. And Pennington attacking the legs of Peña, and Pennington dropping Peña with a big right hand and looked to follow up with ground and pound, but that allowed Peña to recover and get back to her feet. And Peña did have some success in the remainder of this round, but this is 2-2 going into the fifth. And both having success in the fifth round, using their jabs, and Peña landing some hard right hands. But Pennington though with a beautiful right hook that stumbles Peña, and Pennington starting to really put on the pressure. But Peña not quitting on herself and still looking to land shots, But Pennington took round 5, in my opinion. I would need to go back and rewatch this fight again, as it was really close, and the judges had it that way as well, as this was a split decision in favor of Julianna Pena, 48-47 by 2 of the judges in her favor, and 48-47 for Raquel Pennington by the other. And in your feature bout, it was Jose Aldo taking on Mario Bautista in the men's bantamweight division. Bautista puts a lot of good pressure on Aldo in the first, clinching against the cage and landing hard shots in close. And Aldo comes out swinging after the break in a pretty competitive first round that I do feel went to Bautista. In the second, Aldo with a beautiful left hand cutting Bautista over the right eye and continuing to pop him with the jab, landing hard shots and forcing Bautista to clinch up. And when they break, they go back and forth, each landing to the head before Bautista again engages in the clinch. And when they break, they swing. Aldo with a hard right hand and Bautista with a knee up the middle, and a really interesting battle on the feet when it gets there. In the third, again, both having success on the feet, with Aldo landing the better shots so far in my opinion. Bautista again looking to clinch against the cage and wear on Aldo. Mark Paldron breaks them up. Bautista immediately shoots the double leg again that Aldo stuffs. And Aldo pushes forward once they break, throwing hard punches, which forces Bautista again to clinch, and they finish the fight on the feet. And the judges' decision was split in the favor of Mario Bautista, 29-28 by 2 of the judges in his favor and 29-28 by the other in favor of Aldo. Very close fight. It all comes down to the third round. I need to go back and rewatch it again, but yeah, very, very close fight. Roman Dolidze and Kevin Holland in the middleweight division. Good attacks to the legs from Holland in the first, but Dolidze is able to secure a takedown off of one of those low kicks. And Holland did look for the armbar, but Dolidze evaded it. But in the scramble, Holland popped or dislocated his rib, and Dolidze moved to mount and started to smash with ground and pound. But Holland did survive the round, only to have the fight called off in between rounds due to the injury to his rib. And a very unfortunate ending to what had potential to be a very exciting fight. Obviously, I don't think that's going to get rebooked, but yeah, be interesting to see who they pair both of these guys up with next. And kicking off the main card, it was Kayla Harrison and Ketlen Vieira in the women's bantamweight division. And Harrison getting to the clinch early and landing some knees, but Vieira is able to break back to the center. Harrison, though, was able to get the fight to the ground and landed some hard, vicious ground and pound, smothering Vieira against the cage. In the second, it seemed Harrison is content to keep the fight on the feet and not really look for the takedown. Eventually, Harrison gets to the clinch and lands good shots against the cage, but Vieira responds with a solid elbow in close that caused a knot on the forehead of Harrison, and then landing another elbow later in the round on the opposite side. And I have this all going down to the third round, one apiece. And in that third round, Harrison is able to get the fight to the ground and land some strong ground and pound against the cage, dropping heavy elbows and grinding on Vieira, moving into mount and continuing with the ground and pound, eventually going to the decision, which was unanimous for Kayla Harrison, 30-27 by 2 of the judges and 29-28 by the other. And in your feature prelim, it was Stephen Thompson and Joaquin Buckley in the welterweight division. Buckley getting in on the double leg early and slamming Thompson to the ground, but can't hold him there, and back on the feet, Wonderboy displayed his great counter-striking and kick attacks, cracking Buckley several times with a right hand and cutting him over the eye as well, and showing really good takedown defense as the round went on. In the second, vicious elbows to the head as Buckley looked for the single leg against the cage, and Wonderboy spins off back to the center. And Buckley is starting to find his range late in the round, landing good punches upstairs and getting the fight to the ground, but again, unable to hold Wonderboy down. In the third, Buckley coming out hard, throwing big, wild punches, and Thompson landing the head kick, and right after, Buckley throws all of himself into a right hand that crumbles Wonderboy against the fence, and Buckley followed up with a few hard shots on the ground to stop the fight, and this was a very impressive KO victory for Joaquin Buckley at 217 of round number 3. Next up on your prelims, it was Marina Rodriguez taking on Yasmin Luceno in the women's strawweight division. Luceno is looking for the rare scissor takedown in the first round, and Rodriguez landed 2 hard right hands, and the second on the top of the head hurting Luceno, who turned it into a takedown, finishing the round on top, landing ground and pound. In the second, Luceno seemingly getting the better of it on the feet, with both landing, but again, it's Luceno getting the fight to the ground and landing some good ground and pound. But Marc Goddard does stand them up from half guard, which is odd, and they finish the round on the feet. And in the third, Luceno again in on the body lock and gets Rodriguez to the mat, right into mount. But she gets stood up for digging her chin into the eye of Rodriguez, which is pretty dirty and stupid. Back on the feet, Rodriguez lands a hard elbow in close, staying in Luceno's face and landing another elbow again in close. And it's Rodriguez now looking to get in on the takedown, but ends up in a heel hook battle, and it's now Rodriguez who ends up on the bottom, with both looking for strikes from the ground to end the fight. And this went to a judge's decision, and again it was split for the victor, 29-28 times 2 for Yasmin Luceno and 29-28 by the other judge for Marina Rodriguez. Alexander Hernandez and Austin Hubard in the lightweight division. Left hook from Hubard hurts Hernandez in the first, forcing him back, with Hubard trying to stay in the face of Hernandez, who lands a good left hand of his own and another hard one near the end of the round. Good work from Hernandez on the feet to start the second, and he shows some great takedown defense as well. Hubard with a knee up the middle, just missing, catching with the shin, and Hernandez is starting to pull away in this round. Hubard is still there, but Hernandez's shots have much more on them. In the third, Hernandez with a right hand that seemed to briefly hurt the eye of Hubard, forcing him to fight back off the cage. And Hubard still unable to get his takedowns going, but gets off a nice combination with a spinning back kick to the body. And Hubard starting to get the better of it now on the feet, cracking Hernandez with punches and front kicks to the body, and they throw down to the bell. And this went to a judge's decision, which was split in the favor of Alexander Hernandez, 30-27 by one of the judges and 29-28 by the other. I do not agree with that 30-27 scorecard. Close fight, very close fight, but yeah, that's not right. And kicking off the prelim card, it was Ihor Pereira taking on Cesar Almeida in the middleweight division. Almeida landed the better and more accurate shots in the opening round, but Pereira did have some moments, including a brief takedown, but Almeida is controlling this one. In the second, a series of eye pokes and a low blow from Almeida really slowed the pace down, and no warnings from the referee. Pereira, though undiscouraged, gets right in on a takedown, landing some good ground and pound. Almeida, though, is able to work back to his feet, but Pereira again gets in on a takedown, getting the fight to the ground, but ends up in an arm-in guillotine that was really tight, but does manage to pop his head out, but it leaves Almeida in mount, and he lands some vicious, hard elbows and punches, smashing Pereira for the rest of the round. In the third, another eye poke that is not acknowledged by the ref, and Almeida landing some hard right hands. And okay, this ref is not qualified to be in here. I don't know who this guy is or how he got this job, but this is brutal. The no calls on the fouls, and now breaking the fighters up after 17 seconds of clinching, and then he does it again. I mean, this man is a menace and should not be allowed to officiate MMA events, period. But with all this going on, Pereira still stays tough and does not give up on himself, despite all the adversity being faced. And this did go to the judge's decision, which was unanimous for Almeida, 30-27 across the board. Your featured early prelim, Ovince St. Peru and Ryan Spann in the light heavyweight division. Spann cracking OSP with a right hand that rocked him early in the first and forced him to look for the takedown. But Spann locked up the high elbow guillotine and got the quick tap from OSP. And that was a dominant performance by the somewhat inconsistent Ryan Spann, who has now said consistency is going to be on show. Carla Esparza and Tisha Pennington in the women's strawweight division. Pennington looking real good on the feet to start this one, landing shots to the head and beating up the lead leg of Esparza, forcing her to get the fight to the ground. And Esparza landed some good elbows from side control and really smothered Pennington for the rest of the round from top position. Cracking right hand from Esparza in the second, while Pennington still landing her own shots and continues to attack the lead leg of Esparza, with both landing good shots near the end of the round, with Esparza getting in on a takedown, but Pennington worked hard to get the fight back to the feet for the end of the round. In the third, Pennington really continuing to beat up that lead leg of Esparza. Esparza did land a nice flurry, but this has been a clear round for Pennington so far. But Esparza with some good moments near the end of the round, gets the takedown and ending in mount, dropping massive elbows, and a great end to the round for Esparza in the last fight of her career. And this did go to a judge's decision, which was unanimous, 29-28 by two of the judges and 30-27 by the other for Tisha Pennington. And I don't agree with the 30-27 scorecard, that's crazy. But it was a very close fight, and they had a real nice highlight reel lined up for Esparza, and the two-time women's strawweight champ has now officially retired. Kicking off the entire card, it was Tim Dirty Bird Means taking on Court McGee in the welterweight division. Great opening round for McGee, landing good shots on the feet, which opened up the takedown for him, and once the fight got to the ground, McGee proceeded to smother Means, getting to the back and locking up the face/neck crank and getting the tap at 3:19 of the first round. As for the bonus winners for the evening, Fight of the Night honors went to Alex Powhatan Pereira and Khalil Rountree Jr. for that vicious, brutal beating that was administered by Pereira on Rountree in the main event. Joaquin Buckley will also take home $50,000 for a performance of the night bonus for his stoppage win over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And Superman Ryan Spann will also be taking home $50,000 for his submission victory over Ovens St. Preux. Taking a look at next week's fight card, you got Brandon Royval taking on Tatsuro Taira in the flyweight division from the UFC Apex. Also on that card, Brad Tavares and Park Jun-young, Grant Dawson and Rafa Garcia, Daniel Rodriguez taking on Alex Morono, and on your prelim card, Chidi Bang Bang Njokuani and Jared Gordon should be a fun fight, as well as Jonathan Pierce and Pat Sabatini. It also sees the return of fan favorite Chris Barnett taking on Junior Tafa this Saturday, October 12th from the UFC Apex. And that does it for another episode of The Fight Corner, episode 18, done and dusted. Thank you all again for tuning in. It really does mean a lot. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It all does go a long way. So until next time, peace.